Welcome to the Vision Profiles podcast. Join us, two dedicated Apple Vision Pro users, as we dive into everything from hardware and software to apps and the latest updates in the world of Apple Vision Pro. I'm Marty. I happen to be a faculty member at Kent State University, a podcaster, past work in commercial radio, but now an avid Apple product fan.
And I'm Eric Bolden. I work in IT, but my interest is in finding interesting ways to share content, currently photography of plants, birds, and panoramic sequences.
And we've got a guest with us tonight, which always makes the show more exciting. And, I hope Daniel will enjoy it tonight and maybe join us on future nights too, as time comes up. But we've got Daniel Burkholder. Daniel, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Hey, I'm Daniel Burkholder. It'll be fun to be here. I'm a software engineer, and I was thinking how to introduce myself otherwise, and I'm going with self-proclaimed technologist. I just enjoy immersing myself in all new technology, right? And nowadays that's manifesting itself in terms of generative AI, human-computer interaction interfaces, and of course, AR, VR, XR, MR, whatever we want to call it these days. And for the day job, I'm head up software engineering at a software SaaS startup called Phonism, where we do a software platform to manage office phones today, but tomorrow, who knows what else?
Yeah, you have
maybe a little bit of AR, Apple Vision support too in that future.
You have some. You have an impressive rack of stuff behind you.
Oh yeah, well, behind me is just a big. I got a big honking network switch with probably, I don't know, a couple dozen desk phones, super sexy startup desk phones there. And this is probably only a fourth of the inventory that I have in stock. And it's all set up so my team can remote in and work on them. But, we spend a lot of time just trying to make sure all these work and come up instantaneously on all the providers like Cisco and Zoom and all that. So
yeah, so you have real street cred. I know Eric does IT support. I'm just a lonely faculty member who teaches most of the time, but my kind of interest and passion has been technology, and I've written about it in terms of my field. But you've got real credentials, which is very cool.
I appreciate that.
So let's talk about the news. I'm just going to be honest. I know Eric and Daniel both know this, but I just went nuts with the news this week. I don't know if I was successful finding all this stuff in RSS feeds, but I just started throwing everything into the show notes. So we'll have really long show notes, but I don't think we're going to talk about every article because many of the articles are duplicates. And then having to organize them into kind of meaningful categories. We're going to start off with the news with regard to the Vision Pro and also Vision Pro beta release. We had a beta release for Vision OS 2, Beta 2, and interesting stuff that's come along with it. I don't know if have you added it, Daniel? Have you played with it?
So I just got mine back and I immediately put Beta 2 right on. And looking at these release notes, I swear these release notes never change. So I didn't really see anything different from Beta 1 to Beta 2. The only thing that did stick out to me was, and I don't know if it was an accident or it's a new default, but there was screen reading on by default in one of the accessibility settings. And it was actually, I found it pretty nifty. Of course, I ended up turning it off, but it kind of just hovered above on the top right and it kind of read whatever window you had up, which, I mean, that's cool, but I don't know if it's now on by default or that was the only thing I noticed so far. Different.
You have to kind of, and we'll post the notes so listeners can see it. Kind of have to page through a lot of stuff. And for me, not a non-technical and non-programming code person, I look at the new features and then try and figure out what the new features are. So for those of you who are not that deep into, developing programs or writing software, page through it, you'll see some of the new features that come up. But then you have to I have to kind of decipher it in my head. Now, what does that really mean to my use of the headset?
Yeah, and I haven't done really any development in Apple ecosystems yet, so I can read it. I'm like, these are words I know, and I know they mean things to people who do work in it. But then what I can decipher, I'm like, oh, that will have implications for something later, which is pretty cool. But usually within all the new updates too, I'm immediately trolling through every setting menu all the time,
Mm.
looking for new little nuggets, new little something that they didn't mention, because there's always like a million things they never mention.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to play with the hand gestures?
Oh, I love it.
Oh, so do I.
Yeah, yeah. When WWDC was going on, my friend's like, and he's like 20 seconds ahead of me because he's there. He's like, "You're about to freak out," and I'm like, "Okay." And so I'm like, "Yeah." I'm freaking out. I love that.
It's so
That's what.
it's so nice not having to kind of like reach up above your head trying to push buttons. Now you just
Yeah.
Yeah.
hold your hand out and a dot appears and you click a finger or rotate your hand and yeah, it's nice.
And I
And
found the trick was like you need to watch with your eyes where it's gonna be.
yeah.
You
Yes.
can't just like look away and do it.
Yeah.
You gotta be looking at it.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of that memory to settle in because the first couple of times you're like, "Oh, this doesn't work very well," and it's until you begin to do it and look at it. Now it's like the two things I really want to know is what's my battery level and what time is it, and how much longer is this movie got that I'm watching or what I'm doing to figure out how late I'm going to stay up or if I should cash it in and pick it up at another day. So those two, and then getting to the home, obviously getting to the home page, and
But I'd
playing
really
with
like
it.
them to expand it. I'd love to be able to like flip it over and then maybe there's like notification shade down my wrist. That'd
Yeah.
be pretty cool. Or, put hot like shortcuts to other apps that I use frequently, or like
Well,
a quick app switcher. That'd be nice.
well, if the new Marvel game that they have, what if I get is it
Yeah.
called?
Yeah.
I mean, you see by playing through that, you see what hand gestures could really potentially be, not just for gaming, but also for operating systems. So let's move on. And there was this came out today. Apple released a second beta for Vision OS 1.3 to developers. So people who are still working on the 1.3, and we had a developer last week that hadn't moved to 2.0 yet, but they've released another beta version of it. So you can look at that and see the link to it. We have it listed as a Mac Rumors article. This I think is pretty cool. This next article is we're staying in the news section here. Is there are new in-store demo changes?
Good ones. Really good ones. I know
Talk about it.
that you don't have a problem with the single loop band, but and all I can think of is after they did all of the surveys of users, the feedback that they got was the dual loop band was more comfortable for more people, or maybe they're just switching it up and they're trying it for a while now and they'll look at the other one. But I find I have like a 10-minute period I can use the single band, but the dual loop band I can have it loose. It just rests on my head. It's comfortable. 3-4 hours. I have no problem with it. And so I was glad to see them trying demos there because feedback I've gotten from people I have sent into the stores to try it, has been, weird pressure and the single loop band, you've got to adjust behind your head just right to get it to work. And for some people, it's just not comfortable. So that was the biggest thing I noticed, the dual loop band in demos. And then they branched off to letting people add their own pictures and look at their own pictures. It's really like all the things that people got frustrated. The demo is great, lots of wow factor, but let me try this one more thing. And, so being able to look at some of your own stuff or be able to extend your session a tiny bit in a particular themed area, such as, business apps or maybe more photography stuff. Just so that you didn't actually have to buy the device, take it home, try it for a week, not be able to ask questions until you get back to the store. It seems like it's a lot more organized, let you get a lot of the base level experiences in the store while you're there and can ask questions. It seems like a good change.
I wonder if they're doing Mac virtual display demos. That because if they're not, I would say that's a big mistake.
I would think on the business side of things, on the you can add on to your demo that that should be part of it. I don't know if you have it set up to use your own machine though, but
probably not.
Yeah, they refer to it as the go deeper experience, so you can get an hour instead of 30 minutes. Here's the thing that I was thinking of. It's cool looking at your own photos, but if they're running a 1.2, then they don't have the spatial option. And I think that is that people want to see their own photos, but the idea of moving them into spatial, and the spatial version is so good in what Apple produced compared to some of the side apps that are out there to do it, that it's that I'm thinking of all the things they need to do to sell more units. People who are really tech wonks are going to want to spend more time free writing the thing instead of trying different things out than just having a canned demo. They're going to, want to be able to use a strap that works for them. They'll sell more units with that head strap, frankly. And then the benefit is the solo strap comes with it, and people will, once they get used to the dual, they'll switch to the solo instead of vice versa. But the idea of being able to see your own photos and see the spatial, I'd be curious to find out if they're running a beta 2.0. I doubt it, but
no way. But yeah, I would agree. Like now, personally, I haven't found the spatializing of photos to be very good in my experience. But I do think, right, like to spatialize it when OS 2 is out, there's no chance that's not going to be part of the demo that they do in store. No way.
Yeah, we're going to have to wait a while, I guess, for 2.0 to actually come out. It won't be till the fall.
Well,
oh, really?
No, there was some patent, not patent. I'd have to find it, but I saw somewhere that for the UK release, it mentioned that it would be shipping with Vision OS 2, and the date on that was like July 12th. Rumors, who knows? But if they're saying it's going to come out of the box when it's released there with OS 2, that could imply we're going to get it around then.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, we both have a friend in Austria who has put her order in to pick up in Germany on July 12th.
Oh.
So, Europe seems like they're getting the system released on those dates. So maybe she'll have 2.0 on it. Be interesting to find out.
Be really funny if she had it and we don't.
I put an article in there in the news that came out in Macworld, and Macworld is just an interesting magazine altogether. But the idea that the article is kind of written tongue in cheek, but I think was meaningful in the sense where it said, the title of the article is something like "Vision Pro is a flop, just like the iPod." And the idea was that the iPod went through development stages. It was overpriced. Elements were added to it and then it became a staple for a long time until I think the phone eventually replaced a lot of what the iPod did. It became a staple for a long time. So, people's early complaints about what Vision Pro has and doesn't have feels like it's parallel to some of those same complaints that happened with the iPod. I just thought it was an interesting article.
Oh, good.
No, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing repeated over and over. And I don't know what it is about Apple products. And, I mean, you guys are much older than me, so you've probably seen it more. But just in my lifetime, I remember the phone, iPhone, watch. Do I remember the iPod? No, I might have been a little too young. But still, you see all the same complaints all the time, and they're still never going to go away. And it's still all the same stuff. XYZ bad, too expensive, can't do this, can't do Y. Yet it's still just going crazy. And it's the same story. Like same story. Wait till like what is the iPhone 3G of the Vision Pro? That's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember I've been an Apple user or really book user since early 2000s, but I remember my niece getting in the first iPod, and I was like, "How much did you pay for that? How many songs can you put on it? Why would you even think of doing?" Because I was using a Windows-based music player. Um, but yeah, I mean, I had the same complaints about the iPod when it first came out.
Well, and I think people keep forgetting that this is a whole new platform. I mean, partly because a lot of the elements had existed before and, it wasn't really defined. So, it's not a display, it's not a phone, it's not an iPad, it's something completely different. And, this is still early enough that it really hasn't grown into what it's really going to be.
And I find a lot of weird, I think weird misexpectations for it too. Like I remember like one that's criticism that stood out to me is essentially is expecting it to release on day one with like the full catalog of all the AR, VR things that people have been doing, for frankly for years now, to be fair, right? But traditional Apple fashion, always late. Um, I'm sorry, in what world is that to make any sense that you expect it to have all of this full catalog of software on literally a brand new product? It's kind of strange.
I'm there have been some articles, and this whole week it's been back and forth about whether Apple Vision Pro will have Apple Intelligence with it or not. And then the voice of Gurman came down a couple of days ago, and we'll have that article posted too, and said, yes, it looks like Vision Pro will be getting Apple Intelligence in some capacity when it said it wasn't originally going to get it. And so, we have a few articles that go back and forth on that.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you consider Apple Intelligence to be, because there's so many different components of it. I'm sure pieces for sure will be there.
I think as far as I'm concerned, as long as the Siri improvements come and maybe it being able to do actions on your behalf, though I think that's probably stretching it. I mean, okay, I'll take back what I said. If just the Siri part comes, I would be happy because all these other reports along the lines of Apple Intelligence on the Vision Pro confirm, well, at least in my mind, like, apparently that thing is just maxed out. That M2 is just cooking. So that's what it means, and fine, but just at least give us the Siri.
That seems
Well,
reasonable.
yeah, we've been asking for Siri for years.
They got the
However,
lead and then kind of let it go. And
the voice recognition on this thing on Vision Pro, I think, is so much better in terms of being able to do voice responses with it. So if Siri would catch up with the intelligence, then we would have a great piece of equipment with it. Gonna jump to another article that I thought was just fascinating when I saw it. Apple doing some patents on that indicate that they want to be able to open real world locks by just looking at them. And there was an indication that some of this technology, because they put a patent together, some of this technology could be coming to like a Vision Pro and using some of the glance detection features that are in Vision Pro that will allow for it to kind of automatically open locks.
I think it's interesting. Personally, I'm not reading too much into that. I think it's kind of a patent for patent's sake in this case, because at least in the example, it just seems I just don't see much use for the investment because I'm thinking all the other things you need to do to even make a product that could support that. Like I have to imagine like it needs to detect it, right? Like part of it is like you could be looking at your locked thing, maybe from what, like a building, wherever you're in, looking down at the window and
Yeah.
unlock or something. Like, hold on, that's a lot has to go on there to be able to make that happen. If it's like a bike lock and there's like a rack of bikes, like machine vision's good. I don't know. I don't know if it's that good.
You think it
Although,
might be? Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
If it really is just a keychain, a location-based keychain, that it certainly could deliver. For all of those people that can't remember that padlock combination that they from 2 years ago that they put on their storage device that they now need to open again, it could be tied to a location, tied to the keychain. It just pops up and says, "Hey, you had a padlock at this location or attached to this particular bike that has a location thing on it, so I know it's the right bike, and it was this number. Give that a try."
I think an implementation of this idea that makes more sense to me is, what if you could assign codes to like an AirTag, right? So like, if you're driving your CarPlay, you get out in your car, it's like,
Yep.
we marked your location here. So one, you could do that if you like stuck it on your bike. And then two, it's like, when I reapproach, like pop up and be like, hey, look, this predetermined code. Um, that would be far more usable and then wouldn't be restricted to anybody using a vision device too. Plus then some AirTags.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your phone already remembers when you're at a location, you leave, and you can find your car again. So
Yeah, I was thinking AirTag though, because like at least like with your car, I actually don't know. Will that tell you if you don't use CarPlay? I mean, because I'm using CarPlay all the time. I think it only tells you if you use CarPlay, and then of course you stop because you got to your destination. I, I don't know if it does it otherwise, because I was thinking the AirTag is the trigger to know, oh, you were on asset bike and then
yeah.
you got off it.
Yeah, it would be I'm completely off target here, maybe, but it would be nice if it could just be a phone tap. I bring my phone up to the lock. The lock is programmed for my phone as a device, and then I just bring it and it unlocks it that
Yeah,
way.
that's a good point. Like, or
Yeah.
or just Bluetooth even. I mean, they
Right.
have Bluetooth locks. Why not just embrace that more? And then any manufacturer doesn't need only the Apple thing, right? They can do others too.
Next article, a little bit about how Apple is a patent explains how Vision Pro comfort could be improved. And it's another patent spotted by Patently Apple. And this is on 9 to 5 Mac. And, they're talking about other ways in which they could balance out the device. So there's not excessive forces or weight on the cheeks or the nose. We've talked a lot about fit. Last week, I talked about a couple of devices that I got, one that doesn't fit on me that will help with the headset adjustment, supposedly. I'm bringing it to MacStock for Eric to try on and see if it'll work with him. And then another device that basically works as a front plate that kind of takes the pressure off with a padding
AnaPro.
on the plate. Yeah, the AnaPro. Have you used any of those, or have you had any success with those?
I got my AnaPro. Yeah,
How
I
does
like
that?
my AnaPro actually. I use it both with and without a light seal. The no light seal experience is really worth a try with it. I think that's where it shines the most.
Okay.
But I would agree, like with a light seal, at least for me, and I tried all the different cushions and whatnot. It's very marginal gain. But then I can just like, okay, I'm gonna do mostly AR things for the day. Pop that light
Mhm.
seal off, so I have two wearing modes now.
Yeah. My thing, and it seems like a simple, a minor complaint, but with the AnaPro on my headset, I can't put it back in my Apple, and it just seems like I'm compressing the thing too much to get it in and seal it up. So it seems like it's a piece that I have to put on each time I'm going to use it if I'm going to pack it in my case each time, which I do for protection and to keep the dog less interested in it.
Yeah, I just got a new case, that U Carlos one that's
Yeah.
kind of common. And yeah, I realized for that one I do have to take it off. But I do have another one that I normally use that's pretty honking and it can fit in there as is. So that's kind of
Yeah.
like the at-home box. And then I have the travel one, which I have to
Right.
take it off. But
Yeah, I've got a couple of smaller travel cases that I'll take. The pillow, the big Apple pillowcase,
Space
just pretty much
Marshmallow.
stays here. Yeah, the big marshmallow stays here at home. Then they talk about supply chain. We get into a lot of discussion, and then some discussion further on that talks about how, and we'll get into there's some articles about how Apple might make a cheaper Vision Pro. There were a lot of articles out this week about that. But there's an article about supply chain efforts and trying to come up with entry-level models with the supply chain. A good article about Apple AR glasses paved with Vision Pro headsets. So this is a device that will eventually, hopefully, lead to a much more portable AR set of glasses, and just an interesting article in that.
That's what I'm hoping the end game will be.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it. I think that's the end game, at least on the software. Like, I think we have the software and the interaction model there. And like I've been saying to a lot of my friends and whatnot, I'm like, if this form factor was not so big, you would wear it all day, practically as much as I am. And it's in my mind, it's just the form factor. You just got to get that down.
Then an article on the 7 upgrades that Apple Vision Pro needs to succeed in business. We've heard this before. This is coming out of ZDNet, and clear messaging on what Apple Pro can do for businesses. Businesses don't know how to use it and don't know how it can be used.
I think sometimes those articles are really we really want a completely different product than the one you're shipping, and could you really make all of these changes, and then that'll be what we want. But that's not really what people are looking for. So,
Typical enterprise mindset too. Don't want to buy what's on the truck. God, do I know that one. But and I think part of the problem too is, and I mean, it's this whole headset industry in general. It just does have a software problem, and a lot of the use cases that you can start to see are going to be useful are just still so too far away. I think again, just still all comes down to adoption and still getting it all miniaturized and more. It's kind of, I guess we need network effects, and the only way to get that is to get it in more people's. I was about to say more people's hands, but actually on more people's faces.
Yeah, they do talk in this article about the lack of industry apps that are out there for people to use, and so that makes it difficult for business to kind of adopt this as a device. Device management and enterprise integration is another point, and then competitive pricing. So
Also
it's
environment, I imagine too, because I can't imagine. I mean, there's definitely a lot of big enterprises using Apple machines, but I mean, there's just as much, if not more, not.
Yeah.
So how you attract that, because it brings a whole separate problem. I need to convert and manage a whole new ecosystem of things that I've never touched as like the IT admin.
although they could handle phones.
That's true. And they do have some MDM support, but I haven't played around with it since yet, because well, even though I do manage our MDM at our company, I don't want to just put it on there and then somehow accidentally lock myself out. But so they do have some, but I'm sure not to the degree that generally is required.
Well, and they're adding to it. Not all of the MDM vendors have had a chance to actually implement the stuff that's published yet, though. So it'll get there.
So I'm looking at this and seeing that we're kind of moving into articles about Apple Intelligence. One final article that came out just today. Apple Intelligence might get a paid tier one day. So it's as it is now, or as they say it's going to be now. You have on-device Apple Intelligence, you have Apple Intelligence in the cloud, and then you have the option to go off device to use Apple Intelligence with ChatGPT. Saw another article today saying they're also going to be tapping into Google, Google Gemini as another product base for that people could go out to. But this article speaks to primarily its use and eventually having a paid tier. So if you think of ChatGPT, it has a free tier that everybody can have access to, and then there's a paid tier that goes with it that gives you some extension in terms of availability, use, and effectiveness in it. And you're always a generation ahead in terms of the versions that occur with it in ChatGPT. So the possibility that here's a shocker, Apple's going to try and make money off of it.
Like, got to get that services revenue up,
Although
especially when everything's lasting longer.
realistically, Apple doesn't have to directly make money off of it as long as they sell it through the device. So, if you want to use ChatGPT and set up your account on device and Apple gets their cut, they don't have to charge separately to let you do more with it. You pay ChatGPT and split it with Apple.
What's their I don't subscribe to it. Their bundled iCloud service. Is it Apple One?
Apple One.
Okay, because Google's is also Google One. So
Yeah, I know.
I was like making sure I didn't get them confused. I wonder if they would just roll it into that. I mean, maybe a couple extra buck bump up in price. I just don't. I like they definitely want to get their subscription revenue, and I mean, all this is expensive to run, so I feel like they would
But
have to.
there's always a risk if you tie yourself too tightly to any of the more advanced models that something embarrassing will happen. So that if they always leave it as a plug-in and that vendor can charge and they can get a cut of whatever the vendor charges, that gives them that cutaway layer of deniability if something goes horribly wrong. And then it doesn't damage their own self-contained pieces.
Yeah, that with Apple is going to be real interesting. Like frankly, I can't wait for Apple Intelligence stuff because I just really want to try to break it as much as possible. So
you want to send it into hallucinations.
Oh yeah.
Apple Intelligence Plus, if we're going to call it that, there's the idea of rolling it into Apple One makes sense. I mean, just had this discussion with my wife today about Apple One, and she said, well, so what is all in Apple One? So I explained to her all the products. And since I have it on a family plan, I think I'm paying $35 or $39 a month for everyone to have those. Now, I don't use arcade and I don't use fitness. But if this was bundled in, if Apple Intelligence was bundled in, or if you could select out of certain pieces in a bundle and still maintain that price point, yeah, I would. I think that would be a way to manage instead of a separate paid added tier. I kind of agree with Eric that it would be nice to see Apple keep out of the tight integration with other types of AI services because the potential danger of them going belly up or them having a problem, and then it's reflected through Apple. I do like from what I understand, Apple is going to know what questions you ask of Chat GPT to make its system smarter. So it's wonderful that you're out going and asking things of Chat GPT, but it also means Apple having it on their devices means it's going to get smarter too. And maybe there'll be someday it'll say goodbye to its Chat GPT cousin because it doesn't need it.
And thinking about it a little more too, I'm trying to think what they could do to differentiate a paid plan. Like thinking on the phone, maybe I'm wrong, because people astound me with the things that they'll do on their phones, but I can't envision somebody using, even me, and I use AI heavily. I not on really on my phone, not enough to, if it was just my phone, to warrant a whole subscription, to do a whole thing. Like the subscription for ChatGPT Plus, it's like great, I get the news models quick, like right now. No, well, there are some limits, not as much anymore, and some additional features. But all the features that they want to do on device would essentially come for free because it's all on device and it's implicit in how it works. So I don't know what they differentiate. Like maybe if you're generating a lot of images, but of course, if you're that much of I'd say teetering into pro or prosumer territory, you're probably not using it anyway. You're probably just going straight to the vendor, or you have something else
Right.
like you're using Adobe's products, or
Yeah. Or
and
mid
Getty
mid
has
so
their
mid
own
journey.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Dolly, yeah, or anything.
Golly.
You're a prosumer, you're already off doing your own thing.
Well, it'll be interesting to see
Hmm.
how that evolves. I would love to think that Apple will just put it in, and what they're going to gain from it is the revenue they gain from it. They get it off of people using their software and hardware on their hardware. But who knows? This article talks a little bit about the possibility of it moving to, and I think that was a Gurman leak too, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
So the god of Gurman handed that down to us.
German all around.
Yeah, everybody gets Gurman. Vision Pro Lite, a series of articles. I don't think we should go too deeply into it. Came out this week about Vision Pro Lite and what it might look like, when it might come out. Anything in particular? The big thing was one of the big things was connecting your Vision Pro to your iPhone or to another Apple device and have it run the heavy duty stuff, essentially. So will it be tethered to another device? The light version of it, their argument is it is already tethered to a battery. So why wouldn't you tether it to another device? I don't know.
I'm down for it. I how to say, I I just don't know if I see it buying them much to reduce the cost of the device. I just don't see it doing that much and introducing a lot of other problems. Cooling, right? Namely for one. And I mean, yeah, I suppose you know, if it was just off your phone, like I saw one idea of like a really small internal battery, kind of enough to get it going and hooked up, and then you'd like just plug it into your phone and then could go off your phone and do all the compute there. I mean, I suppose then your phone's going to get toasty. I don't know. It just sounds like a lot to, I think, for minimal gain. But yeah,
Yeah, my disagreement with a lot of this is they keep comparing it to a price point that is Meta's price point.
a price point, frankly, I think is nearly impossible to hit
Yeah,
with to maintain the level of functionality we have today, or even like 80% of it. I don't think not in at least the next 8 years, perhaps.
my argument is they're trying to compare what is essentially a computing device to what is essentially a gaming device. And they're like, we got to get it down to the $1,500. Well, you're getting it down to a device that it's not. It's a computer. It runs programs, it runs apps, and the limited amount of productivity stuff that you can do. Because I own a Meta 3, I own a Meta 2, and I think my son has my Meta 1 somewhere. So you know, I've been in that playground, and the idea that these articles are still coming out trying to make that price point comparison drives me nuts. But yeah, one of the things is they're going to tether it.
But a lot of what makes it work is the fact that it's all processing all on board on the same system, so the response times are fast enough. You know, you'd have to come up with what you could put somewhere else and still have it respond fast enough to actually function.
Yeah, that R1 or whatever R chip, that would still have to be on device. I don't see any ways in any way that could be moved. And I mean, I don't know enough about the internal, right? But to your point, bandwidth would be a big factor. I mean, I don't think even with Thunderbolt 4, or is there Thunderbolt 5 yet? I don't know. I don't think even that would have enough bandwidth required to handle this. Maybe, not certain, but my mind still goes back to cooling and also
Yeah.
how big is this thing gonna be? And you know, and then if it does go to the phone, great, cool. But
Yeah, there was one
The-
article that was talking about adjusting the displays, go with a low resolution display that's bigger. It's a different experience, but maybe
yeah,
I don't know if that changes the price enough to make it worthwhile. I mean,
yeah.
if they wait long enough, at some point they'll come out with a new version that's got a faster processor, and then this current version could drop a tiny bit.
Yeah, that was an iMore article. That was a leak from, if I remember correct, yeah, the Elect the elec that said that Apple requested information from Samsung and LG about a 2.1-inch OLED. OLEDs on silicon displays with 1700 pixels per inch, lower than the standard of the micro OLED displays that currently are in an Apple Vision Pro, which are 1.42 inches with a pixel density of 3391 pixels per inch. They talked about ways that those can kind of be beefed up, and they can make adjustments in it, so it even adds some added clarity to it. But I really didn't give any suggestions about price point. This is another Garmin. Reports in his Power On newsletter recently that he expects this headset to sell between 1,500 and 2,000, and not expecting the lower cost version to launch until 2025.
I just still can't see it. I don't know how they could sell this device the price of a MacBook Air to keep all the existing functionality and quality as is. And I mean, cheaper display, sure, but I also that seems out of character for Apple. I don't know. I almost look at them requesting for information more as I'm actually trying to find out what you do have so I can see what my competitors are putting in their headsets. Because I mean, if they're selling it to me, they're selling it to others.
I think there's really nothing more significant other than these various attempts to create a Vision Pro Lite. I will post these in show notes. So even though we didn't talk about them, listeners can kind of go through them. Again, many of these articles are written from one interview, and then they're brought into a whole series of different trades for information. And they often read the same. This is true for the international news, which was the Apple Vision Pro going on sale outside of the U.S. for the first time in China and Japan. And Singapore, too. Was it in Singapore? I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then eventually it'll be in Europe and elsewhere. They started taking, they'll be taking, online orders in the UK and they've taken them into Germany. So they've all been, they've started that process. For me, what's interesting is you start to look at the threads on Reddit and you look at the threads on Discord. The Europeans are now asking the same questions that we asked when the device first was announced. So how do you do I answered a question for a guy today. How do you do the optical inserts? Do you really have to send in a prescription, or can you just give them the numbers? And same sort of questions about sizing and getting, doing the sizing, which was for me a major mess up when I first got my Vision Pro, because the phone gave me a different reading than the in-store reading that I got. And two different phone attempts gave me two different head size readings. So it's just interesting to see this process unfold internationally.
I think it's getting smoother, though. The software to measure your face seems to be getting better.
I'm having a harder time with Persona.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I have to, and I mentioned this on previous shows, I think, I have to take it off of my head and almost put it in accessibility mode. I don't know if it's the shape of my head or what, but I'm either too far or too close. And then they're like, tilt your head down. And if I tilt my head down, it's like I can't put my chin into my chest physically. I mean, I can get it there, but it wants me to tilt it down even more. It's just a mess. It takes me of course, with each version I add onto the headset, I have to redo the damn thing. And I wind up putting it up on a bookshelf, and then there's not enough light in the room for it to measure. It's just a mess. For me.
The light seemed to be really important, though.
Yeah,
it wants a lot of light.
Yeah, the outcome much better. My wife is not creeped out as much seeing my Persona as she used to be. But just getting there has been difficult for me. They're charging 18% more in China than in America. That was in a couple of articles about it, but then they didn't explain why. in the article. They just said, here's the price differences, but there is really no clear explanation of why the device cost more. Couple more, we'll switch out of that and we'll go into talking a little bit about the competitors. First, MetaQuest headsets testing the Vision Pro style freeform window placement. That the idea that we can move in Meta, you can start moving windows around. They talked about some of the difficulties in them staying there. Like if you walk out of the room or you're far away enough from them, those windows won't stay. They'll snap back into one position. You can't keep them distributed among the room. And again, it's like windows of what? When I'm on my Vision Pro, I've got my calendar open, I've got my email open. It's a productivity device as well as an entertaining device. But windows of what on Meta? Mondays? Mondays is the one thing they got.
I would say, though, I've seen some videos of some of their window management, and I'll admit I'm actually a bit jealous of it. I wish we could have some of them. Like I saw one where I think in the most recent update, they have. I think they've had this for a while. Frankly, I need to get a Quest. I just want to have one to compare. But you can anchor windows, and then they could be like snapped together, and then you can move them all together as a group, or like rip and pull them out. And of course, they're not staying there because I think on the Quest you have to like it has to like scan your room, and you can't
Right.
like really leave. Whereas like on Vision is just doing it all the time. But like the things like the snapping, the hooking, being able to have like an anchor that I could carry it around, like please, Apple, take that. That is actually really cool, really useful. But also,
Yeah.
frankly, Apple has a history of not being really good at window management. Still barely just figured out snapping windows on the Mac when Sequoia.
Yeah.
So,
I once created a window on my Vision Pro in my office here and decided I wanted to move the business downstairs into my living room. And I remember kind of grabbing the window and walking down a flight of stairs with my headset on and thinking about halfway down the steps, boy, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? Because I'm focusing on getting the window downstairs instead of me getting down safely. So yeah.
and then somebody told you you could like hold the crown to like recenter them all, right?
Yeah. Well, no, that would require reading and understanding, and I don't do that well. Another thing, this caught my eye, and I'll tell you, I started to go through to look at how to get one of these things just because I have a Meta 3 and I know what that's like. I know you want to get one of those, Daniel, but this new headset that seems to be an Android knockoff called Play for Dream MR. I started looking at this article and it's like, okay, first of all, it looks like a Vision Pro. It does these things. And they even have a video that you can see what it does. And the price point is, I think, around 2,200 or something like that.
I think the thing about this one though, I saw this too, and I think does this actually have compute inside, or is it a like a
Is it?
PCVR headset?
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
wait, Android apps. What am I saying? Android apps. Well, I do like the interface. I didn't see the interface, so it even has the little bar on the bottom, just like
Mhm.
ours. I mean, hey, all power to them, right? I love all the competition, the new competition, and I love all the old, like, oh, we're better, yet they're implementing everything they did on the Vision Pro.
Yeah.
But you know what? Fine, good. I'm all for it.
Yeah, in a world where I could have free access to the Chinese Genius Bar on this thing, I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, now think seriously. If I'm going to get this, how am I going to get it fixed? What if I don't understand how to use it? What am I going to deal with in terms of software? It coming from, the country of origin it is. So I dropped that idea. And but I did go to the buy one section and nothing was in English, which made it even more difficult for me. I could do a translate page, I guess. But I decided, no, this is where I step out. But take a look at it. If you're a listener and you're interested in different headsets, it's an interesting kind of Chinese version of what is Vision Pro, even before they officially got Vision Pro. So it's pretty cool in that sense. But as Eric and I don't know, Daniel, if you're on in space, there are plenty of international users of the Vision Pro headset without them having direct access in their country to get it. So one bit of app news, and it was about Juno. And if you remember Juno from early launch, that was when YouTube said, we're never going, well, they didn't say, they just never wanted to do a app for Vision Pro. And so Juno, which was created by Kristen Selig, who was of Reddit fame from creating a app for Reddit that everybody used instead of the Reddit app until Reddit Sherlocked them. We didn't really Sherlock them. They basically said, we're going to start charging you for all of our information and access to our information, which put all the other app developers out of business. And right now there's really one app, and that's the Reddit app. But, when I heard he was going to do an app that was going to parallel and give us YouTube, I paid my $5 as soon as I could to support him in that development. Well, there's a new version of it that's come out that does some pretty remarkable things. I haven't spent a lot of time with it, to be honest with you, but in app news, that's something I know. I have the upgraded version of it, and I'll take a look at it.
YouTube's my primary media vice. And I was actually really down on Juno for a while. I felt like it got worse in some of the updates. And I haven't tried the 180 or 360-degree video, but just the updates alone, and it's so much better. I'm like, thank God, because I was getting really mad, frankly. It had taken steps back even from initial release, so it's like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mentioned on the last show I'm using Lens probably more because I can put a bunch of streaming services in it. And besides that pain in the butt of having to sign up for all those services through that one app or sign into those services through that one app, I kind of like it. It's very functional.
You're doing one app or 12 different apps from each of the vendors. So
yeah. So Daniel, let's take a break from all the news. That was a long news segment. And let's find out a little bit about your experience with Apple Vision Pro. What are you doing now? What do you use it for? And how you think you'd want to use it, or ideas that you have for the future.
yeah, so I was a day one user. I bought it right away the moment. Well, I couldn't pre-order it right away. I had to wait 2 weeks, 2 long, excruciating weeks, where if anybody who knows me, it's really hard for me to commit to stuff like that sometimes. So it was a challenge. But I did it, and I'm coming from a background where I really didn't do any VR stuff. Aside from like my friends bring one over, I do Beat Saber a little bit. I'm like, cool. I'm not buying a thing. So it was really nice to get Apple's take on it, because I really care more about the productivity side of things, like general computing. I mean, I do play video games, but I want the video game second, right? My uses, though, frankly, aren't. I was thinking about it today, and I'm like, I think my main app is probably just Mac Virtual Display. And frankly, that's kind of boring, but I will be in that thing all day. I mean, frankly, the only reason I'm not in it now is because I probably had it on about 7 hours today, just doing my normal work day, doing the thing. I just find it, infinitely more convenient that if I'm going to have a screen, if I'm going to be in front of a screen, I just will have it on my face and have the best one I can have wherever I am. I have a lot of ideas, really busy with the work stuff. I haven't had an opportunity to explore them. I mean, I could talk about some of them. I don't feel like I'm going to give away my secret ideas. Sign my NDA, please, before you steal it. But I just really think that this is really, to use the word, the vision of what a real AR computing, the whole kind of cyberpunk reality where we can just have screens popping up in our face and looking at data and whatever all the time, whenever we want. I think this is it. And I just want to see this whole industry grow now with it, especially with everyone else kind of doing some of the similar things. But otherwise, it's been great. My only small issue is I was a victim of the Crackgate. So yeah, so it was funny. Like when I saw people were having that, I'm like, okay, I'm checking it every day. Like every morning before I put it on first thing, I'm checking. Last Monday was my day. And so it's like, it's like barely like a 3 millimeter crack, but it's there. And I'm like, I'm taking care of this right away. I take it to the Apple store, basically no questions asked, send it off. Apparently no one heard this from me, but a friend, he works at an Apple store. He looked up my repair. Apparently they had failed to repair it twice, which is very interesting. They had
Huh.
a rough time fixing that glass, and they
Hmm.
kept saying the audio pods weren't working. But I think that was just because of the Vision OS beta. Because literally that same morning, I played Elden Ring on it. So,
Huh.
um, but then I had a new one by Friday. So not even a whole week, and I had a new one. So, hey, I don't care if they made mistake. Took them multiple attempts, whatever. They took care of it. I wasn't worried about it. Um,
So they didn't do an in-store replacement?
no, I asked because I really would have wanted just to like
Yeah.
swap and leave. But I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever.
Okay.
And I think I had seen that nobody has gotten an expedited replacement yet.
Yeah.
Probably because they're starting to release it, right? So they want to maybe retain inventory. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um,
Wow. You're the first person I've had direct contact with that. So was it in the usual scene place right above the nose
yeah, it
bridge?
was right above it, just like a little to the left of like the center lidar, and no impact, nothing, just, same old, same old. And like I'm even careful to like when I put it away, I'll like put the
Yeah.
little
Put
bra
the
on it,
cover
like
on it.
Cover.
Yeah.
just
Yep.
enough to not cover up all the vents fully and just make sure everything can get nice and breathe. Because I'll just leave it plugged in, all day, night, whatever. But
There were a
hey,
lot of rumors about it was happening to machines that were plugged in. It was happening to, so I've avoided all of that. There was a discussion on Reddit or on Discord with someone wanting to know, can they do this? Can they do that? You mean I have to shut it off every time? It's like, it's a
yeah.
$3,500 piece of equipment.
So it should be able to handle what I do, which is leave it plugged in all the time. And even when I'm traveling from place to place, I carry around a little battery that I plug it into so I can keep it charged so it's ready to go when I get there. I don't leave it in a hot car though. That's my limit.
Yeah, and yeah, that is one of the theories, right? Is heat, which I guess I can see that happening. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you want fancy molded glass, and of course, that's the tiniest part of the thing, and probably literally does have probably the most stress on it from the manufacturing. So maybe they'll maybe not make it not as sharp of a bend or something in future models. Don't have to worry about it because I mean, thankfully it wasn't like just the straight up vertical line. I mean, they still would take care of it, but it would have been much more like, oh my God, what's going on here?
I really should go check mine. I
I
haven't
check.
looked for a
I
while.
still check it every morning. Like every morning I check. I mean, I even checked it a little while ago. Is it good? No, we're good.
Yeah.
Which like you
I,
shouldn't have to do that.
yeah.
To be fair, but you know what? People buy, cars and they get car recalls. Tesla windshield wiper has a recall. The
Yep.
Cybertruck. So I mean, but you don't hear people, giving humongous criticism and stuff like that. So just is what
Yeah.
it is.
I had a little scare a couple of days ago when I took the headset off. I was sitting on the couch, put it next to me, put the cover on it, and got up and forgot that the battery pack was stuck in my pocket and dragged it off the couch onto the floor.
Oh,
And yeah, I thought, okay, this is the thing that I've been waiting to have happen that finally happened, and it's never going to be at a good time. But there was no damage to it. The
hmm.
cover had come off. And of course my back, so I didn't see how it fell or what happened with it. I did then take it and carefully, look at it to make sure there were no cracks, and I think I felt something that looked like it was a little bit of I don't want to say a chip. It was too hard to really see it. I put it on, whatever it was didn't have an impact on it. And then later I looked at it again and I think I kind of took my fingernail and scratched across it, and I think it came off. So God knows it could have been a piece of pizza for all I know.
It's just the
That was
hair.
Yeah.
but
Huh.
things running fine and lesson learned.
Always put the battery in the pocket and dash off right away without looking behind you.
Yeah.
More importantly, put the cover on before you do that.
Well, I did have the cover on, but when it
Yeah.
fell off the couch or got pulled off the couch, the cover, I think, popped off of it.
Oh,
So who knows?
Yeah, see,
That
it's
was that.
battery out of pocket first, then Vision Pro.
Yeah.
That's the
Thanks, Mom.
cycle.
Thanks, Mom and Dad. I needed to hear that.
well, maybe it's like the Vision Pro releasing a parachute. It shot the cover off, hoping to slow its descent.
Well, that's the solo loop band.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So let's go on to some apps, and we'll close down. And I hope, Daniel, you'll come back as often as you like to join us as part of the panel. I put some in. I think maybe we had some other ones put in. I'm going to start with Trip. Have either of you tried Trip? Apple has its own meditation app that's built into its devices. And I read something about Trip and I said, I've got to try this. Its visuals are incredible. And what I think it's free of charge now, that you can get the app for free. But then I went to look at the app on another device and they have a like $12 a month fee for it. So I can't remember exactly what the fee was, but I kept having to go back and go, did I just get this for free? And the article I read that was talking about it said it's currently free for this short period of time on Vision Pro on that platform. So I would recommend you check it out.
Right away.
Get it right away. The visuals are incredible in it.
Yeah,
Very atmospheric. There's all different kinds of settings in it. So you can choose gender of voice. You can choose how often you want the voice to talk to you. It has some box breathing stuff, inhale, exhale, and that always moves too long for me and my lung capacity. But it is very cool. And, at some point they say you can just ignore the box if you want to. So I tried a couple of different themes that are in it, and just an interesting app. And I think you can set it for 10 minutes or you can set it for 30 minutes. And it really is visually just incredible. And 360, you just kind of look around and you're completely immersed in this environment.
So it's just a meditation app, and could you turn the speaking completely off? Because I'm looking at these screenshots and these videos, and I'm like, whoa, I wanna use this app meditating. I'll just leave it at that, meditating, because it looks like as they say, a trip.
Yeah, I am not going to attempt to do any chemicals with this because I've already dropped my headset once before. So I don't want a second opportunity. Yeah, there are lots of settings in it that you can, and I think you can shut off the music. You can probably shut off the audio too, but it's free, Daniel. So check it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go download
and it is fun. Geo Mastermind, I saw something on Reddit about it and went and checked it out. It is a globe that you can move around. Still kind of feels like it's not as smooth as it should be. And it's supposed to teach you geography. Very limited content at this point. I think there's also a subscription basis for that will eventually roll out with it. But it's interesting to look at. You look at various countries, they light up, then you can tap and you get some minimal information that comes out about population and density. So it'll take you back to your high school geography class in terms of it. XR Trick Shot, I think the only way to describe this is ping pong with beer cups.
beer pong.
Beer pong.
Yeah.
And it scans your environment. It finds a flat surface to put the beer cups down on, and then you can just bounce it off of walls into the beer. You can do all sorts of trick shots with it. My ability to do that accurately from a gaming standpoint is not as good as others. I'll pick the ball up, have it in my fingers, and then think I'm throwing it. Instead, it just drops down on the floor. But it's a cute little game to play with. And then a game that is on, I later found out, I usually like to talk about VR only games, but I ran into a game. It was in my compatible apps folder, so I must have got it at some time. It's called Empty, and it is a 3D puzzle game, but not in the sense of you're putting it together. You're moving the objects around, these boxes around with different color pieces of furniture and objects in it. And you have to align them with the different colored parts of the walls to have them disappear. And the goal is to empty the room. So you have to make some choices in order to clear out the couch, which is blue, that's sitting in front of the red wall. You have to get the couch out of the way so you can get the red lamp that's in the foreground out of the way. And it's a fun little game. Apparently it's on iPad, but having the three dimensionality that's visual in front of you on Vision Pro is pretty cool and pretty exciting. And somebody added on-shape vision.
I put that there.
Yeah.
So my Vision Pro usage is pretty benign, but my one, I would say, somewhat interesting thing is, so I have two Mazda Miatas that are like my project cars, and combined with the Vision Pro and Onshape, which is my preferred CAD app, I will use the Vision Pro to assist in 3D scanning the car, because it's just more ergonomic kind of setup to do instead of like holding a laptop and a scanner and at the same time. No, I can just have that on and actually see what I'm actually looking at. But then to take it into Onshape, where that's my preferred CAD app, after I've made the part that I want to make, like a little bracket or something, whatever, Onshape updated, they have a companion app where you can bring in your projects and then bring it into your real space, dimensionally accurate, which was really slick. So I put that there mostly. Even if you don't use Onshape, you could still, like anybody who does like, 3D printing stuff, they're doing CAD stuff on the side, you could still go pop your file there, load it up and see it in real space and manipulate it, move it around. Really slick. Those kind of workflows I'm really excited to see a lot more for.
Yeah. And that has real enterprise potential. Eric, you going to try that?
Yeah, that looks like a lot of fun.
Well,
my week is now set. You've got new things for me to try, and I currently have my device, and it's protected by radioactivity, so nobody else can take it from me. So I'm good.
So are you going to have to trade out seals in order for other people to be able to use it, or?
I mean, worst case scenario, they'd have to wait 24 hours. There's not going to be enough on the seal.
Oh, okay.
And when I trade with Janet, she's got her own seals and everything anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say get extra seals. Like I got me an extra cushion just so like if I get all sweaty, I can just swap it out.
Yeah, I bought a bunch of them early on because I didn't know. First of all, I had two different head sizes, so I got two different light seals. And then got, of course, the cushions that come with it, the wide and then the wide plus that came with it. So I went through a drawer down here that has all my extra stuff in it and started interchanging them. And I put on a wide plus seal. And I got to notice that my eyes were too far away from the lenses. So, it's not going to be useful for me on that particular light seal. But Eric and I will be seeing each other in real-time space in about 10 days at MacStockConferenceandExpo.com. And that is a conference that happens every year, small group of about 100 of us. And I'll be doing a couple of presentations there, one on AI and AI productivity and another one on trying to help people who are constantly asking you for advice on how to fix their whatever, so they can learn to fix it themselves. But we'll be bringing our Vision Pros with us, and we don't want to take the thunder away from what's already planned there, but I think it would be nice if we had a place or a time where we could let people try it on for folks who haven't tried it on, or even try the 2.0 version of the software. So we'll figure something out. Daniel, thanks for joining us tonight. Been
Thanks
a long
for having
show,
me.
Lots of news. Hope you will come back
Sure.
as many times as you wish, and kind of we build the conversation here around Apple Vision Pro. Thanks for joining us and telling us about the work you're doing. You certainly have some interesting and additive perspectives that help us understand the kind of news that's coming out around Apple Vision Pro. Thank you for tuning in. We'd love to hear from our listeners. If you have any ideas or want to join in on an episode, email us at visionprofilespodcast@gmail.com. You can also find information on how to contact us at visionprofiles.info, our website, and all of our available podcasts at thepodtalk.net. Our bumper music is Free Jazzy by Steve Combs, courtesy of the Free Music Archive. Spread the word about the Vision Profiles podcast to other visionaries. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.